Hello and welcome to another instalment of your friendly neighbourhood podcast, Strike the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast with a British twist. As always, I'm P-Dubs, and once again we've been afforded a great opportunity for us and for you guys. We've actually been given the opportunity to interview a current cast member on one of the Netflix shows on Luke Cage. His character has appeared in both Season 1 and will be in the upcoming Season 2. So you'll find out, once we start the interview, who you're going to be listening to. Up front, I want to say there's a bit of spooky going on during the episode. It's explained as we go, so don't worry, it happened. It was one of those things. But it doesn't spoil the interview, so join me as we head into this interview. So, we've got a team of interviewers with us. Tony's disappeared, his internet's playing up again. He hopefully will be with us at some point during this interview. I'm also joined by Craig.
Good evening.
And Josh.
Hello there.
And as I said at the top of the episode, we aren't on our own. We are joined by another special guest, really privileged again. And this time it's actually someone that's survived and is still on the show. From Luke Cage, we have Justin Swain, who played Detective Bailey, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Hi, how you guys doing?
Good.
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining us.
Love to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, we're going to talk about Luke Cage. That's the reason why you're here, Justin. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your career before that as well, and really how you got into acting. Was it always something that you wanted to do?
I started when I was a kid, but I was a big fish in a small pond in a little state over here called New Hampshire. And I was in New England. I did a bunch of drama festivals when I was a kid. And then I was at Emerson College in Boston. And then I hit New York City and I think my first gig was, Law and Order, SVU, which is a rite of passage for New York actors. And then after that, I started doing more and more shows.
I was going to say that seems to be the rite of passage for everybody. It's either Law and Order if you're in New York, or CSI if you're in LA. It seems to be the way. And I noticed you went back to Law and Order a bit later on as well, and did another guest slot on the normal one.
You got the SVU, you got Law and Order, you got all of them. So you try to make the rounds. You try to do at least two Law and Orders before you get out of.
Yeah, I noticed that. And then you also did a little bit of producing and writing on some shorts and on your own films as well. Tell us a little bit about the process behind those as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think that stuff's really super interesting, but I basically started writing theatrical pieces in New York in the mid-aughts. And then I got some plays produced, and from there someone kind of discovered me and said, hey, can you co-write this screenplay for like a horror film with me? And I did that. And then, next thing I know, I pitched a producer a television, idea with my writing partner at the time. Well, not at the time, he's my writing partner now, Kevin O'Donnell. And, they really loved that idea. And so they started shopping that around in Los Angeles. And so currently there's, 2 or 3 producers circling a television project that we wrote together. And that might be on the air in the next year or so. So that's exciting. So that's kind of what I also do. Oh yeah, and I just got done shooting a virtual reality piece, which was really interesting as well.
Yeah, that obviously we're theme park buffs, and that's kind of coming to the fore at the moment in theme parks. I know a lot of the special events. I know Disney have currently got their Star Wars VR experience going. We've got it here in London as well. That they moved over, and I know Universal have had pieces for their Halloween Horror Nights and things like that. So it's a really blooming industry, the VR side of things.
Yeah, it's like the Wild Wild West, and it's a lot of fun, and you do work with some interesting people. I worked with this guy, Ryan Silbert, who is a producing partner, Spike Lee, and some other people, and we put together a virtual reality piece called The Stitch Line, which I think is going to be in some virtual reality festivals coming up. Great.
That sounds really interesting, and hopefully it makes its way over here, because that'd be certainly something we'd be interested in. The other thing I was going to bring up, you were in an episode of Boardwalk Empire as well, which has obviously been huge. What was that experience like?
That was amazing. I don't know if you noticed, in that episode, I actually worked opposite Daredevil, Charlie Cox.
Yes, of course he was in it. I'd completely forgotten that he'd been in it.
He was there with me that day on the set. I'd hope, he'd remember me now, but he was on the set that day. And it was, I was trading guns with, Steve Buscemi's character, with Nucky. And the guy who was brokering it, I think it was McGonagall, he didn't want to do it. So when he turned around, I shot him in the back of the head, and then we, started trading guns. But it was a pretty amazing day. I got to work with Charlie Cox and Steve Buscemi. Wonderful guys.
Absolutely amazing. Steve Buscemi is obviously, a legend now. And Boardwalk.
You want to hear a fun story about that stuff?
Yeah.
Always.
So originally, when I killed McGonagall, I shot him with the Tommy gun. And I just really cut him in half. Just we did the blood splatter and all this stuff. And then when they went and they watched it in post, they said that was too much. It was too distracting. But to do that, to shoot the Tommy gun, I had to train on the gun. So there's this underground shooting range in New York City in Soho. And I spent the day with Steve Buscemi because he shot the gun too. So he and I spent the day training on the Tommy gun underground in an underground secret shooting range in New York City where all the guns that are used to make movies in New York City are housed. So it was me and Steve Buscemi and his son, and we were shooting guns all day, and the gun range guy goes, "Do you want to shoot something else?" And so he actually gave us all of these different guns to shoot with blanks, obviously. Like someone's coming in.
Yeah. I think it's Tony arriving, but I'm not sure.
Hello?
Finally. We can, yeah. So in fact, that's good timing, Tony, because we were actually just about to talk about, the post.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And just to give us a bit of an insight into working with Spielberg, because he's one of the heroes of any film buff. He has to be.
Yeah. No, it was pretty incredible to get that part and to work with him. There's a lot of different actors going in for that. And you saw the movie, like there's just a stunning cast. So it was really a privilege to be working with them. But what's really, really funny is, a long time ago, my wife, she has these really funky little glasses. And, I was on my way out to an audition one day and I grabbed those glasses and I used them in the audition. Alright? And I got the part. This was for a movie called Muhammad Ali's Greatest Fight. And so from then on, I'm not giving this away, but they became my good luck charm. So I actually brought those glasses with me to the audition for the post, and I made there's a lot of noise going on there in the background.
Whoever's moving, stop it.
Sorry, I'm on the phone.
So it's like I'm on a horror movie. No, but anyway, so they liked the glasses in the audition, so that's how I got the part for the post as well. Because Steven Spielberg actually saw the clip of me, and then so when I came and I saw him on set, they were setting up, and I ended up in this room all by myself, and I look over, and this little man kind of walks in, and it's just me alone, and I notice, and I go, wait a second, that's Steven Spielberg, and he was like, hey, good morning, Justin, and I was like, hey, oh my god, and so he and I kind of hung out for a second, and he was kind of like, okay, you gotta go, because they had to set up the actual shot with all the technical stuff, and so I was like, oh, sorry, okay, I'll go, and I left. And then when working with him, he's incredibly precise. So everything that you do, he works with you in a way that he knows exactly what he wants. So when you do it right, he tells you. And you feel really good as an actor because you know you delivered just what he wanted. But we had to do this scene over and over and over again, even though it was only like 15 seconds because the extras kept kind of doing something just a little bit wrong. And so he was getting like, okay, do it again. We literally shot it about 20 times. And I got really bored of delivering my line the same way, even though I knew it was what he wanted. He told me, he was like, that's a good read, Justin. So I went in to do it one time, and I put my face into the camera. I think the line was something like, tell him it's from Sheehan, like, don't walk. And I raised my eyebrow, and he was like, okay, let's do it again. No flourish this time, Justin. That's not good. Like, okay. Because he knew exactly what he wanted. So like, I was like, all right, don't raise the eyebrow. And we just kept going from there. But he was amazing to work with. Super precise, knows what he wants. Really, really just, he's a legend.
Yeah. And you mentioned right at the top there about the cast. Such a great cast from both movies and TV. Currently, obviously, you've got Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and then going to TV, you've got people like Sarah Paulson that just have hit it out of the park more or less on every project they've had in recent years.
Absolutely. What's really funny is I was actually doing a table read of one of the episodes of Luke Cage, which is up in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and they shot the post in a place called Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which is about 20 minutes south. So they sent a car to pick me up to bring me from the read-through down to set to do a makeup test so they could make me look kind of like the guy Sheehan. And in the car, I'm talking to the driver and I'm like, hey, you've been working on this movie a lot. Yeah, I've been working on it a lot. I go, how are the people involved? Cause it's a stellar cast, does anybody have any attitudes? He was like, no, they're amazing. He's like, Tom Hanks is incredible. He goes to me, I actually ran into Tom Hanks in the bathroom and he was super nice to me. And I said, hi, Mr. Hanks. And I was like, that's crazy. And he's like, yeah, I ran into him in the bathroom. I was like, no kidding. And so I get there and I say goodbye to the driver and I go in and the PA comes over and is like, Mr. Swain, come with me. Do you need anything? I'm like, I need to use the restroom real quick. Like, okay, cool. So I go in the bathroom and I walk in and this guy turns around and it's Tom Hanks.
No way.
Tom Hanks in the bathroom. I was like, hey, how you doing? That was my interaction with Tom Hanks on the set.
Oh, amazing. And after the story from the driver as well, it's just... You just couldn't ask for it, really, could you? It wouldn't happen again, even if
you... I was like, I guess this is where Tom Hanks hangs out. I guess, he's in the bathroom all the time. I don't know.
You literally met Woody in the bathroom. That's amazing.
Yes, that is true.
Now, Tony, I know you had some questions about the post as well.
Yeah, well, it's actually really comparing it to working on a movie as to comparing it to working on a show like a Netflix show where you're filming in a block. Is it a very similar feel in terms of shooting schedule and getting the product out?
I think the Netflix shows you're very privileged to be able to work on them because they work a little bit more like filming a movie, like a really long movie. More so than like a normal TV show like a Law and Order or Blue Bloods, which is just a machine where you're going in and you're filming and you're gone. Where the other ones, they allow you a little bit more freedom on it. But what's really interesting, I think, about both of those situations is, I was saying this earlier, Marvel is very protective of their storylines and what's going on in the rest of the world. So you only actually get sent your portion of the script. You very rarely get sent an entire episode because they want to protect it. So what was funny was on the post, they actually just sent me my scene. And I had to sign an NDA, and it was called something completely different. It was like the Nor'easter or something like that. Like it was a secret, which was really crazy. So what was really funny was that when I went and I saw the movie and I went to the cast and crew screening, I didn't realize how my character affected the rest of the movie. So I watched the movie and I see my part and it's right at the beginning. And then for the next 3 scenes, Tom Hanks is talking about me. And then the next, I had no idea. So it was really kind of a surprise because in very much the same way, they only give you your little portion of the movie, and on Marvel things, on certain aspects, they only give you your portion of that episode. So you don't know what's going on or what's happening.
And that kind of moves us on as well, straight into talking about Luke Cage and the secrecy. I wanted to talk about the audition process. We spoke to Michael Nathanson about this, and that it was very hush-hush. Was it the same for you? That you didn't really know what you were going into? Well,
did he say that?
Yeah, he said that basically he joked that he got kidnapped and put in the back of a van. And that's how we got to his audition.
That was basically it, It was actually really funny. Okay. I did 2 auditions that day. I told this story before. My audition that morning was for this show called Limitless, and I was terrible. I just was terrible. I totally tanked it, and I was in such a bad mood. It was like this devil-may-care mood. And I'd gotten this audition in the afternoon, but Luke Cage was shot under a code name called Tierra. Okay?
Right.
So you're thinking, okay, this is something called Tierra. It's for Disney, according to the audition. And I only got a couple lines. So I'm thinking it's some like princess show on NBC. I had no idea what it was. And so I went in and I was talking to the casting director who cast me in Boardwalk Empire, actually. And we were talking and I went in and I had no idea what it was or what it was for. But, I was in such a bad mood from the earlier audition. I just didn't care. So I was all goofy. I was like complaining about millennials and like all this like crazy dumb stuff. And she was like, let's do the audition. I'm like, yeah, what is this anyway? She's like, it's something for Netflix. It's not a big deal. I'm like, okay, good. And then I got it and they called me. I was going north. I was like in a convertible and I had to pull over because I couldn't hear what they said. They were like, yeah, you got it. I was like, yeah, I got it. I go, what is it? And they go, oh, it's Marvel's new show. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, it's the new Marvel show. And then I found out it was Luke Cage and everything else. But they literally, I auditioned with 4 lines. I knew it was a detective and I thought it was some weird show for Disney that was like about a princess because it was called Tierra.
I can only imagine, and just how cloak and dagger it is for everything. I can't imagine how it must be for the guys in the films. It must be even worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. I'd show up on set and I'd ask, Misty or whoever was doing the scene with me. I was like, what's going on? In the first season, there was a scene where Scarf was killed. He betrayed Misty and he's killed. And then kind of my character goes from there. But I remember shooting a scene that comes after that. And because I didn't know what was happening, the director, after we shot the scene 3 times, took me aside. He's like, well, he's dead. And I was like, oh no, I did not. So,
it must be difficult having to film like that, not knowing what's going on around you.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, the cast, I started to get the rhythm of things and be like, okay, so tell me what's going on in the rest of the world, and then you do get full scripts, as they get to know you more and more, so that changes.
And I was going to bring up, once you get to the filming stage of things, it must have been a little bit different. And again, we brought this up with Michael, that Luke was already an established character by the time the series started. We'd already seen him in Jessica Jones season 1. So there's kind of already this image of the show built up from previous. Did it feel like that, or was it a completely new take?
The first season was a surprise. I mean, it felt like, have you guys seen the movie The Princess Bride?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know how when they're like, good night, Wesley, sleep well, too bad we have to kill you in the morning. Like that? That was basically what it felt like when I was doing the first season, because I never knew if I was going to be in the next episode. So they'd be like, okay, good job, Justin, too bad, we have to kill you tomorrow, bye. And I never knew if I was coming back. And so that was what it was like. You kind of got this idea that they definitely were creating as they went but they had a complete vision, and everybody for that first season, because it has a different feel from the other Marvel shows, were like, gosh, I hope this works. I hope this works. And, obviously it did. And, then the second season, you guys, is going to be, I think right now, it's going to be really intense. It's going to be great. It's going to be really amazing.
And the other thing I was going to bring up kind of about season 1 was the fact that it came out and then you had an Oscar winner in your midst as well, with Mahershala Ali winning the Oscar as the show came out.
That was incredible. I mean, I was a fan of his from House of Cards, so I met him at the wrap party. And I walked up to him and I said, I'm a huge fan of yours from House of Cards. It's very nice to meet you. And he goes, yeah, I'm Mahershala. And I was like, yeah, I know. I know who you are. You're incredible. And then he went on and won the Oscar, which was unbelievable. And, he deserved it, man. He's an amazing actor.
Yeah, and he certainly he stood out as one of the major Marvel villains. Certainly on the TV side of things, he kind of stands up to David Tennant's Kilgrave in Jessica Jones.
If you see the villain for season 2, man, it's going to be amazing. I mean, I'm not to take anything away from Mary Shelley. He was amazing too. but I think everyone's going to be blown away. If you look online, I think you kind of see what it's based around, but I'm telling you, man, season 2, it's going to be pretty intense. It's going to be great.
And moving on to season 2, obviously Mike's come off the back of being in The Defenders, and Kristen's come out recently and said there probably won't be another series of The Defenders. Was at any point there a chance that you were going to be in it?
Like I said, I never know what's happening the next day. Like they say, hey, we need you, be here at this time, here are your lines, like show up, and I go. That's what I do. So I just wait. I mean, I was hoping I'd be, but you never know.
No, and it was a fairly big cast in the end, with characters coming from each show. It must have been difficult to pick who they wanted on for those episodes.
Yeah, but they have a plan that's well beyond me. That they're coordinating. I think all the way through to the movies themselves. Like everything is coordinated. That universe is so well orchestrated. Everything is planned. So they have a plan for everybody. Yeah. Curious to see what happens with Bailey.
Yeah, and that's another thing. How much do you feel the presence of the studios? Or is it more that Netflix are there and Marvel are kind of taking a backseat, or the other way around, or are they both kind of there at the same time?
When the actual filming is being done, I feel very much like I'm just part of a family, and like we've known each other now for a while, and they're just kind of you doing your thing. You don't really feel that oversight at all. At the table reads, I think Jeff Loeb, who is runs all of Marvel Television, he was there every time. It was really neat. You'd be in New York, but they would Skype in on a big screen from Los Angeles, and all the writers and the creators would listen from Los Angeles, and Jeff Loeb would either be there or here. And so, somewhere they're all coordinating everything. I just show up and do my thing.
That's great. Great that there is such an involvement. Obviously, Jeff's got a lot of shows under his plate now. Obviously, with these new shows coming up, I know we've got Cloak and Dagger coming as well, and Runaways has just been on recently as well. So he has got a lot on his plate, and it's great to see that he is so involved with each show.
Well, yeah. I mean, I actually never even had a conversation directly with him. I just know that they definitely have an amazing organization there with Marvel and Disney, and how they're able to put together, the whole universe. And, it's like they're running a little city or a gigantic city. It's incredible what they're able to do.
Yeah. And another thing that's just popped into my head. Obviously, music was a big thing for season 1 of Luke Cage. And I know James Gunn kind of plays his soundtracks as they're filming. Was there any of that while you were on set?
No, it was never like that. But I do know that Cheo, he has a deep background. The creator of the show has a deep background in music, and I know that music was very important to him. And he was so very excited to work with all the artists he was able to work with and create the sound and feel of Luke Cage with them. So that was impressive when I finally got to see the show put all together to watch. But there definitely feels, there's something about that group of people. It's a real privilege to work with them. It definitely feels different from anything else I've ever worked on.
And do you think that comes from being on Netflix? Do you think it gives it a little bit more of a free reign than a lot of the network shows?
It's hard to say. I mean, I've never been on that side of the table, like working with such large organizations, but I can definitely say that it feels more like you're shooting a long film, like an indie film, more so than like shooting a TV show. There's just something a little more, in the gut there that works really well. That's cool about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And I think you've said to us that you can't really give a lot away for season 2. Obviously, you're under that Marvel contract that you all sign where you can't give away. But is there any little teasers you could give us?
They might be listening right now. Like
there's someone right behind you.
They kick my door in and they can be like, "Wait, stop talking." I think I just being at the table reads and seeing everybody do their thing, and being there when certain, villains are stepping up to the plate. This season is going to be, I think, really fantastic and something really special. And the villains, this year are also going to be incredible, as well as, watching Mike work and being able to watch Simone work. And there's a couple new people who joined the cast as well, that are incredible, actors and artists. And, it was really a privilege to get to work with them. There's some amazingly talented people, that came on board this year, as well, to join an already amazingly talented cast. So it was exciting.
That's great to see. And the whole cast are fairly, they use their social media really well. Mike obviously posts a lot on Instagram now. He's really taken to talking to his fans, and that's great for people like us to see, because we are just fans, and that's what we are. So it's great that we kind of have that interaction with a lot of the cast, and obviously yourself as well.
Yeah, it was cool to find you guys on Instagram. You found me at the Justin Swain official site, which is funny, to have, but it's cool to be able to talk to people. I've been getting messages. Everyone's excited about the Comic-Cons and WonderCon and all the stuff that's coming up, and coming and attending those is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
too.
And that's where our love of this sort of thing came from. Both me and Tony have attended conventions here in the UK for 15, 20
Many years
now. Yeah. For a long, long time. So that's kind of where our love for this sort of thing comes from.
That's cool, man.
So I'm guessing a couple of the other guys have got some questions. Craig, I know you had a question for Justin.
Yeah, Justin, I'd just like to thank you for coming on, definitely. This has been a privilege just to sit here and listen. But Officer Bailey, season 3 of Luke Cage, Officer Bailey gets a superpower, becomes a superhero in his own right. What would you choose if you could?
Oh my gosh. I kind of, I like the idea of him and his crazy little glasses that he wears. Like in the first season, those are actually my wife's glasses. I grabbed them one day and they became this character thing because it's her prescription. So when I look through them too much, I start to get sick. So I have to take them off. So whenever you see me taking the glasses off, it's because I started to feel sick when I was doing the scene. So I'd like to have his superpower, if he ever gets one, which would be amazing, is somehow to do something with some type of, vision or X-ray vision. So I don't have to, I'll be able to take the glasses off and I'll be able to see through things or shoot laser beams from my eyes, something like that. I think that would be.
Of every teenage person, X-ray vision.
Absolutely, yeah. So that would be some type of laser beams from my eyes. I think might be kind of cool.
Fantastic.
Hmm.
I'd be good with that.
Josh, did you have any questions?
It's just one as a person who loves to see superheroes come to life, right in front of them on the screen. Is Mike Coulter as much of a complete what do they call it? He looks like a Care Bear. As a person, to me, he seems like if you met him, he'd be like a Care Bear. You just want to hug him. Is he that kind of guy? He's not like the Luke Cage figure out of character.
I don't want to give too much away about Mike and everything, but I got to tell you this: he has always been nothing but a gracious, amazing gentleman to me and my wife, who comes with me to the rap parties and everything. So he is just a genuinely fun human being to be around, and I really enjoy his company whenever I get a chance to hang out or do a scene with him. He's been amazing.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, lovely guy.
Tony, did you have anything else, Tony?
Yeah, it was just one sort of flip question to where we talked about you being in so many Defenders. If you could pick one scene cameo in one of the other shows, which one possibly would spring to mind?
If I could pop into one of the other shows?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to show up in Jessica Jones, I think. Cause those two worlds are combined in some type of way. They're crossing over. So I'm sure she's, might come into our territory at some point, and it would just be kind of a really cool thing to be one of the guys that, sits in the room to question her for a second before like Misty or somebody comes in, because I mean, Kristen's attitude that she portrays in Jessica Jones, like just sitting across from her in silence would be intense. So I think that would be amazing. I'd love to be able to do a scene with her like that. That would be pretty cool.
And something kind of similar for me as well. Obviously with Marvel and Disney buying the Fox characters back, is there any of the X-Men or the Fantastic Four or any of those guys that you'd like to see pop up in Luke Cage at some point?
I'd love to see all kinds of crossover, but I think that there are certain, and this is just speculation, but what I think there's certain lines drawn where this is this world and that's that world. So I don't know if we're ever going to see a battle between like Wolverine and Luke Cage, as awesome as that would be, because that would be pretty awesome.
So I think on that note, great talking to you, Justin. Thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys reaching out, and it's cool to talk to fans all over the world. I think I'm gonna leave you on this one little note. If you go on YouTube and you type in Justin Swain Luke Cage, what's really fun, I love watching this, is somebody put together an entire reel of all my scenes from the first season, but it's all dubbed in French.
So brilliant! Well, look at that.
So it's the French Detective Bailey. So check that out online. It's really funny. Give it a watch. And thank you guys for having me. It's awesome to connect with people all over the world through this. It's pretty awesome.
That's great. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you for joining me again.
No problem.
As always, it's a pleasure.
It was a privilege. Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for listening again. We'll be back next week with another Jessica Jones episode recap. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast.